Welcome. I'm so glad we can be here to practice together. We'll begin in meditation. And as always, you can choose to be seated upright on a cushion or a block, something that lets your hip creases be higher than your knees. Or you can choose to lie down onto your back and slide a small pillow or maybe a blanket under your head, perhaps a bolster under your knees, whatever you think you need to be comfortable. And then just take a moment here to, if you're seated, you can take the heels of your hands into the roots of your thigh bones and just press down into the roots of your thigh bones. So your thighs correspond with the Vata dosha. And it's very grounding, very stabilizing, very anchoring to press the thigh bones down. And if you're lying down, what you can do is you could still place the heels of the hands and the thigh bones, and you're just pressing the thigh bones away from you. If you're lying down, you're pressing your thigh bones towards your heels, and you can just use the heel of the hand and give some pressure. And just do that a couple times. If you'd like to, even if you're seated, you can rub your thigh bones from your thighs towards your knees in a downward direction for a sense of grounding and rooting and stabilizing. And then once you've rooted the thigh bones and put some pressure into the legs, just let your hands rest in any way that feels comfortable for you. And drop your awareness into the felt sense of your body. And notice any sensations that are present in your body. Notice how your body feels. Notice the temperature of the air on your skin, the texture of your clothing. Notice the pressure and contact between your body and the earth. Let the parts of your body that are meeting the earth be grounding points, as if you could settle or nestle into those spots a little more fully. If you're lying down, feel the right hip and the left hip, and notice if you need to make any fine-tuning adjustments so the weight feels even in both sides of the pelvis. And then let your femurs start to drop towards your heels. If you're seated, notice your sitting bones, and if you're leaning more weight into one sitting bone or the other. And once you balance the weight between the right sitting bone and the left sitting bone into the earth, see if you can stretch down more through the inseam of the sitting bones rather than the outer edges of the sitting bones, and how that might change the lift of your spine as you let your thigh bones be heavy and your sitting bones reach earthward. And then turn your awareness to the feeling of your breath. And breathing in and breathing out. See if you can breathe in and out through your nose, knowing that nasal breathing is your first line of immunity as the breath is filtered through the nasal pathways. And then see if you can let the breath come down into the diaphragm. into the belly, so that you can feel your abdomen expand as you inhale. And feel your abdomen draw slightly in as you exhale. As you inhale, you might feel the roof of your mouth spread a little wider at the top of the inhale. And on the exhale, you might feel your pelvis get a bit more heavy on the ground. Feel how this breath has this natural, expansive, spreading inhale quality. But the exhale is grounding and rooting and anchoring. So feel the interior quality of the breath. The roof of the mouth and sinuses spread wider on the inhale. And on the exhale, the pelvis gets more heavy. The chest becomes soft on the exhale. The eyes become softer on the exhale. And although this spreading and rooting quality will stay present in the breath, see if you can begin to let your breath become lighter and softer and more subtle. So that you can breathe soft, so that you can sit soft, so you can rest soft. What would it be like to not only soften your breath, but soften your edges as well? The edges of your body or the energetic sphere or field that is you. Let your edges soften. You spend the next couple moments in silence here, feeling the groundedness of the body, the soft edges of your field, and letting the breath get more and more subtle, but yet let the breath stay comfortable. And gradually, slowly allow your eyes to open. So I have a little confession to make. Usually I have a clock over here. That's my yoga clock that tells me, what time it is. And it's not here today, and I don't know where it's gone since I live by myself. I don't have anyone to blame, and I don't know where it's walked off to. So I've just set my phone over here so that maybe periodically I might tap my phone to see what time it is, know that I'm not texting or checking my email or anything in that regard. I'm just trying to keep us on time so that we're not here for 2 or 3 hours. So we're going to go ahead and lie down onto the back. And as you lie down onto the back, I just thought of one more place it might be. Nope. Okay, I'll have to look later. Okay, as you lie down, I want you to tune into the neutral curves of your spine. So the back of the head will rest on the floor. Feel how the back ribs rest on the floor. And then there's a little tiny curve in the low back. For some of you, the low back might be pressed flat, but for others, there might be a little subtle curve in the low back. And then let the pelvis be heavy and just relax your tail. And then tune into right side, left side. Sometimes there's one side of the pelvis that we tend to have more weight in. And so just balance the weight between the right side and the left side. Make any micro adjustments you might need to balance the weight between the two sides of the pelvis. And we're going to keep these markers in our awareness, this idea of a neutral spine, and also level from right to left in the weightedness of the pelvis. So as you take your right leg up, bend your right knee over your hip and have your right knee kind of straight up and down over the hip. And just notice when you do that, did that change which hip you have weight in? And do you need to micro adjust and pour more weight into one side or the other? And then similarly, notice if lifting your knee up, did it push your low back flat? Or is it possible to maintain the neutral spine? Or did you tuck your tail? And so it's not going to be injurious to flatten the low back here. If you need to protect the low back in some way, or it feels better, you can. And you don't want to arch the low back. We don't want to make the low back into an arch. We want the low back to just be lightly towards the floor. It will build more strength if you can find that place where the abdominals engage to maintain a neutral spine. So we're not letting the low back arch high. It's just staying close to the floor, but not necessarily pushing firm flat. Now extend the right leg up towards the ceiling and check in with those same things again. Is your weight still balanced between the right and left? And is the spine still neutral, or have you arched the low back or pushed it firm flat? Where is that place where the low back can lightly meet the floor? And then bring the foot down. And we're going to add more layers to this here in a bit, but just as a starting place. And so just notice with lifting the leg and holding it in the up position, does it feel different right thigh to left thigh? Sometimes even down into the way you can breathe into the pelvis will feel different. Now left side, lift the knee up over the hip, so the thigh bone straight up and down. And just see, is it possible to maintain the weight from the right hip to the left hip? The neutral spine, the sacrum is on the ground. Low back is light to the ground. Rib cage is heavy to the ground. Then extend the left leg up towards the ceiling. And as you extend the left leg up, it may or may not be able to be straight this early on in practice, and that's okay. But just notice, does that mean all the weight leans into one side, or can you keep the weight balanced side to side? Notice when you try to keep the weight more balanced side to side, how abdominal muscles in the back wall, the pelvis turn on to help you stabilize. So again, low back, gently meeting the floor, but perhaps not pushing firm flat unless that's needed. Low ribs are firm on the ground. And then bring the foot down. And as you bring the foot down, just see what that feels like side to side. So we're going to add layers to that, and you're going to see if you can maintain what we just started. So the right leg is going to go up towards the ceiling. And as the right leg goes up, see if you can balance the weight between the right and left side and maintain a neutral spine if possible. So you could stay right here, or for a greater challenge, we're going to take the right leg forward. It'll never touch the ground, but it could go to 45 degrees, or it could go to hovering. And then when you find that, oh, I can't go any further without losing my back on the floor in a comfortable way, then bend the knee and pull the heel towards your bum and take the leg back up towards the ceiling. So you're making a giant bicycle. So we're warming up the legs and hips and the core of the body. You could inhale the leg up and exhale the leg down. We'll do about 10 of them. Of course, you could do more or less based on your needs. And just notice if you're trying to look at your leg, that'll often disrupt the curvature of the neck. So I like to look at the ceiling, maybe a little bit of helium in the chin, and then look from the inside to feel the body rather than having to look to see what's happening. Look from the inside, so you're building body awareness. We'll just do 2 more times like this. And the next time the leg comes into the up position, we'll bring the foot on the floor and 2 feet on the ground and just notice, besides fatigue, how does that feel right to left? How does that feel right to left? Now let's do the other side. So take the left leg up. Left leg goes up on the inhale. On the exhale, it comes forward, maybe 45 degrees, maybe to hover. Bend the knee, pull the heel in, extend the leg up towards the ceiling. And then we're going to continue like this, making these giant circles, but seeing if you can keep the weight even right to left in your hips. See if you can keep a relatively neutral spine, because what can happen is when the leg goes forward, there's often a tendency to want to arch the low back. And so you want to make sure that you don't arch the low back, especially excessively away from the floor when the leg comes forward. Let's do 2 more times, a little helium in the chin, the eyes closed if needed, looking from the inside. And then last time, when the leg goes up, we'll just bring the foot down onto the ground. And take a breath and feel how that feels side to side. So take the heels of the hands like we did in our meditation and press into the roots of the thighs and press the thigh bones away from you. And as you press your thigh bones away from you, feel how the thigh bones are moving towards your heels. You might even feel a little scooping quality coming into the belly as the thigh bones go down. And then we'll roll over to the side and come up to hands and knees and come to 4-point table. So as you come to 4-point table, take your hands slightly forward and then press back into downward facing dog. From downward dog, take a full breath here. And then walk the feet up to the hands. Inhale, lengthen the spine. And exhale, fold the spine. Press the feet, reach the arms all the way up overhead. And exhale, stand centered, arms at the sides. So if you have 2 blocks, have your 2 blocks nearby. If you have a choice between foam, cork, or wood blocks, foam is going to be a much better choice today. And if you don't have blocks, don't worry. I'll give you some creative ways that we can do what we do. But start with just lifting up your toes and flaring them, spreading them out, and letting them land on the mat. Let's do that again. So lift the toes, spread them wide, and then let them rest on the mat. And as you do, Notice if your toes now are straining to be wide, and just let them relax a little bit so that there's not strain in the toes. And then can you spread the balls of the feet wide? So the balls of the feet are this part here. So this is the heel. One time on retreat, somebody said, but it's shaped like a ball down here. But this is the heel. This is the ball of the foot. And so you're going to spread the ball of the foot wide. And then with the balls of the feet spread wide, just lift the heels up. Lower the heels down. And as you lift the heels up, and as you lower the heels down, notice if you tend to roll to the pinky toe side or the big toe side of the ball of the foot, and see if you can even that out so that you can stay. Usually it's about staying rooted in the big toe side because most of us tend to roll into the pinky toe side. Let's just do this 2 more times. We're waking up our feet. Our practice is going to have quite a bit of focus on grounding today. I think many folks are finding they're getting a bit ungrounded with the news and the media and the holidays and the close of the year. And so our practice can help anchor us and ground us and remind us what's true and steady within us. And then next time the heels drop, just feel the feet on the ground. Put your mind in your feet. Feet connect to the earth. And then let's go wide. So as you go wide, turn your toes out and your heels in. Toes out, heels in, and bring hands to hips. As you exhale, squat down into sumo pose and feel the shins go forward and the bum goes back. So it's a real stick your butt out pose. Exhale down. Inhale up. Let's just go with our own breath rhythm. We don't have to move in sync with each other. And 2 more times like this. Now, next time you squat down, pause. And as you squat down, can you spread the balls of the feet on the ground and just feel the grounding of the feet? And now when you spread your feet wide, if it makes your eyes or palate tense, you might be going too wide. Just let the edges soften a bit. So the feet are connected, the feet are spreading, but like the edges are softening. And then straighten the legs, turn the feet parallel, and step the feet together. Now, hopefully you have blocks nearby. You're going to use 2 blocks if you have them. You're going to go wide through the feet. Toes are going to turn out. And as you squat down into sumo, this time you're going to put the blocks right at the tops of the thighs where the heels of the hands were. And you can bring your hands or your elbows down onto your blocks. And so with your elbows or hands onto the blocks, you're going to press your thigh bones down and let your heels be heavy. So thigh bones are grounding down via the elbows, but we're not rounding the spine. So I'm just going to turn to the side so you can see the side view of how when I'm coming down, if you stick your butt out far enough, then your spine can still be straight as you press your thigh bones down with the blocks. And then that'll probably feel like long enough. So we'll slowly straighten back up, turn the feet parallel, and step the feet together. That is what we call OF, oddly fatiguing. So let's set our blocks off to the side. And as you set your blocks off to the side, let's go wide through the feet. And as you go wide through your feet, turn your left toes in, your right toes out. And just take pause to spread your feet into the ground. And can you push into the ground like the front foot is pushing the floor away from you to push you into your back foot? So your front foot's pushing into the floor to shift the weight into the back foot. And then your back foot's pushing into the floor to shift you into the front foot. And can you feel this interplay of how you can press your feet to balance the weight in between the 2 feet? Then exhale, bend the front knee. Inhale, straighten the front leg. And just go up and down really slow, really steady, trying to stay in that awareness of your feet being equally grounded. Front foot pressing the weight into the back foot pressing the weight to your front foot. And then just up and down, smooth, slow, and steady. 2 more times. Next time the front knee comes into the bent position, pausing there, spreading the weight into the feet, spreading the feet and balancing the weight. And then the back leg, the thigh bone, notice if your thigh bone tends to live more towards the front body, or if you can press your thigh bone back in space towards the back body. Then bring hands to heart and reach the arms out to the side. Look over your right fingertips as you breathe. Exhale, hands to hips, straight front leg and over to the other side. Right toes in, left toes out. Again, spread your feet on the mat. Push your front foot into the mat as if your front foot is pushing you into your back foot. And then push into the back foot like your back foot's pushing you into the front foot. And feel where both of those 2 actions can happen at the same time. Keeping the feet rooting in this way, exhale, bending the knee, and inhale, straighten the leg. And just go up and down with your own breathing rhythm, slow, steady, and smooth. And then we'll go up and down 2 more times like this. And next time you bend, hold there, spreading the feet, pushing into the feet. And then notice the back leg thigh bone. Is it living to the front body, or can you press the thigh bone back towards the back body? Hands could come to the heart where you could stay, or reach the arms out to the side and look over your left fingertips with soft eyes as you breathe. Exhale, hands to hips, straight front leg, feet parallel. Step the feet together. And as you step with the feet together, just feel how that feels in your body. Feet on the ground, legs underneath you. The stronger, the steadier the legs are, often the more support we feel, the more inner stability we have, the more we can be upright in the middle of our life with dignity and ease. Let's go a little wider through the feet again. So taking the left toes in and the right toes out. So the same feeling of spreading the feet on the floor, pushing the back foot to bring you into the front foot, pushing the front foot to bring you into the back foot. Find that balance. And exhale, bend the front knee. From your pelvis, tip over, bring your forearm to your thigh. Take the other arm and sweep it forward, and then reach it up overhead into side angle pose. As you do, spin your chest open, look towards the ceiling, breathing in and breathing out. Notice if all the weight goes to the front foot, can you still feel the back foot on the ground? Down into the front foot. Inhale, come all the way up. Transition to the other side. So turn your right toes in, left toes out. Move down into the feet. Balance the weight between the two sides. Front foot pushing into back foot pushing into front foot. And then the front knee bends. From the pelvis, tip over, bring the forearm to the thigh. And sweep the arm. So the arm is reaching overhead, tricep towards the cheek. The belly and ribs spin open. The chin might tuck into the armpit as you look up. And then notice where all the weight has gone. Likely to the front foot, that's common. But can you still stay in the back foot? Down into the front foot. Inhale, come all the way up. Turn your feet parallel, toe heel the feet together if needed, and then step your feet together. Grab a hold of just one block. And as you have one block, go wide through your feet. As you step wide through your feet, turn your left toes in and your right toes out. This time, bend the front knee and place the edge of the block in the root of your right thigh. So it's right on your thigh bone. You could turn the block whatever way feels comfortable, but you want to be able to have the edge of the block in the root of the thigh. And now you're going to use your hand to press down onto the block as if to press the thigh bone down. Now don't press so hard that it gives your shoulder discomfort or your jaw discomfort, but just feel what it feels like to put a little pressure into the block to encourage your front thigh bone to drop down. We're inviting the thigh bones to move towards the hamstrings. Now the back leg thigh bone, can you move the back leg thigh bone? Instead of it pushing forward towards the quadricep, can the back leg thigh bone go back towards your hamstring? And just taking an extra breath or two here. Thigh bones having this feeling of moving towards the hamstrings. Front thigh bone dropping, back thigh bone pressing. And then inhale, a straight front leg. Turn the feet parallel. You have to transfer the block to the other hand. Turn your right toes in, turn your left toes out, and bend the front knee. Then put your block so that the edge of the block is going right up into the crease of the hip. Have your other hand on the block, and just with a little bit of pressure down, push down into the thigh bone. Down into the thigh bone. So the front leg thigh bone is moving towards the ground. Relax your left shoulder, relax your jaw. And then the back leg thigh bone is pressing back towards the back of the leg. So the thigh bone is pressing towards the hamstring. The front thigh bone is dropping down. Let's just take an extra breath or two here. And then inhale, a straight front leg. Turn your feet parallel, toe heel the feet together if needed to step together. Set the block aside for just a moment. Feel your 2 feet underneath you, perhaps getting a bit more grounded, rooted, and long. And feel where your pelvic crests are. So find where your pelvic crests are in your body. So pelvic crests are usually about underneath. You find the elastic of your pants, and right underneath, you're going to find your pelvic crests, your iliac crests. So you're going to take your feet wide, your block in hand, and your left toes in, your right toes out. So just what we did before, we're just going to add a layer. You're going to tip over, pardon me, not tip over. You're going to bend the front knee. I'm like jumping ahead. Now you know where we're going eventually. You're going to place your block again right into the crease of the thigh. And you're going to press your thigh bone down. But this time what I want you to take is take your right pelvic crest and lift your right pelvic crest up. So what would it be like to press your right thigh bone down and try to lift your right pelvic crest up and away from your thigh bone? You'll find your spine gets a little taller, your belly might get a little longer. Relax the right shoulder and the jaw. So right thigh bone is pressing down, right pelvic crest is trying to lift up. Low ribs are drawing in. One more breath here. And then a straight front leg. Let's go to the other side. So right toes in, left toes out. Bend the front knee, put the block right in the crease of the hip. Place your hand, your left hand on the block. Push down into the block, but not too hard that it makes tension in your shoulder. Take your awareness to the left pelvic crest and lift your left pelvic crest up. So left pelvic crest lifts, left thigh bone drops. And then breathing in and breathing out, and see if you can get that feeling of pelvic crest lifting up and away from the thigh. The belly and the spine get longer. And then release, and then straighten the leg, feet parallel, toe heel the feet together again until you can comfortably step. Take a breath. There was a little foreshadowing of where we're going next. So we're going to go wide. And you're going to turn left toes in, right toes out. Okay, so here we are. Going to bend the front knee. Place the block into the crease of the hip. And this time I'm going to make sure that the long part of the block is like matching the length or the long aspect of my thigh bone. Because now we're going to tip over and we're going to place our forearm on the block. And so with the forearm on the block, you're tipping over and you're going to actually press with your elbow the block down. Now the other arm's going to reach overhead and stretch into side angle. But can you remember your feet? Your feet spreading on the floor. Your thigh bones moving towards the hamstrings, back leg thigh bone, front leg thigh bone, and then revolving open to look up. Now notice if you're scrunching into your right shoulder, when you push your right elbow down into the block, lift up out of your right shoulder slightly so that the right shoulder isn't hunched up towards your ear. Let's take 2 more breaths here. And then down into the feet, inhale coming up, grabbing a hold of the block and going to the other side. So taking your right toes in, left toes out, bend the front knee. Place the block on the thigh. Bring the elbow down onto the block. And so here we are, the elbow's pushing the thigh bone down. Take your right arm and reach it overhead, tricep towards the cheek. And remember your feet. So spread your feet onto the ground. And as you spread your feet onto the ground, press your thigh bones towards the hamstring. So back leg, thigh bone towards hamstring. front thigh bone dropping down. And then notice if you're scrunching into your left shoulder, push into your elbow to push the block down to ground the thigh bone, but lift up a little bit out of the left shoulder. Then revolve the chest open and maybe look up towards the ceiling if you'd like. We'll take 2 more breaths here. And down into the feet. Inhale, come all the way up. Feet parallel, toe heel the feet together. And can you step the feet back together, standing centered? And so as your feet are standing underneath you, feel how that feels. Let's move to tree pose. So if you need balance support, you could go by the wall, spread the left foot on the ground, left foot spreading onto the ground, right heel to ankle, to shin, or to thigh. And this time, instead of using the block, you're going to bring your right hand into the crease of the right thigh. And can you gently press your right thigh as if your right thigh is going to draw down towards the knee, but lift your pelvic crests up. Reach the left arm up. So the left foot is grounding down and spreading. Left arm is reaching. And the right thigh bone is pressing down via the right hand. And if you'd like, you can reach the right arm up, but still have that feeling of right thigh reaching down and pelvic crests lifting up. This balance of opposites. Yoga is the center where opposites merge. Let's take another breath wherever you are. And then arms down, knee circles around, and standing centered. Let's do the other side. So spread the right foot on the floor. Bring your left heel to the ankle, the shin, or the inner thigh. Little different. Take your left heel of hand and place it in the crease of your left thigh. And while maintaining your balance, can you press your left thigh down and out? Left thigh is pressing down and out like you're stretching your thigh out through your knee. And if you'd like, as the right foot goes down, right arm could reach up. As your left thigh is going down, your pelvic crests are lifting up. You could stay right here or reach the left arm up, feeling that feeling of the left thigh reaching down, pelvic crests and arms reaching up. And exhale, arms down. Knees circling around, feet on the ground, and feeling how the legs feel underneath you. Let's go to the top of the mat. Standing centered. We might have new legs. Inhale, arms reaching all the way up. Exhale, fold all the way down over the legs. Inhale, lengthen the spine forward. Plant the hands and step back into downward facing dog. So as you're in downward dog, the root mound of the index finger grounds. The balls of the feet spread wide, the toes relax. Can you take your awareness to the roots of the thigh bones where the blocks were? And feel that when you press into your hands, the roots of the thighs press back towards the wall behind you, like the blocks are pushing your thighs way
way back. You might find that there's a balance there of opposites where the shins press forward and the roots of the thighs press back. Shins forward, thighs back. You might find more release comes to the spine. Head hangs down, one more breath. And then exhale, come into straight arm plank. Use your knees if needed and lower to your belly. So we spent quite a bit of time on the legs today. Let's bring just a little attention into our spine and our shoulders for a balanced practice. So your legs might feel longer now. So imagine your thigh bones were reaching out through your feet. What would it feel like to let thigh bones reach out through your feet? You could even imagine that someone is just gently drawing your ankles away from you. The pubic bone presses down to give more support to the low back. The low belly is going to stay on the ground, but from right between the shoulder blades, lift the head and chest, curl the thoracic spine. And as you lift your head and chest, can the back of the neck stay long as you lift up? So yes, the chin is lifting, but not at the expense of the neck. And then exhale, lower down. And let's do that 2 more times. The pubic bone presses down. Inhale, curl the spine, lift the head and chest. And exhale, lower down. Last time like that. Press into the pubic bone, reach the legs back. Inhale, head and chest lift. Exhale, lower on down. Now you can continue with that back bend, or if you'd like, the last week we've been working on Sphinx Pose. So you're going to come up onto elbows. And instead of your elbows being right under your shoulders, take your elbows about 1 inch forward of your shoulders. That'll just give you a little bit more space and comfort. And then with elbows, being on elbows, you'll want to bring awareness back to the legs because the legs are what give support to the low back. So you might be able to reach your legs behind you so much that the kneecaps lift up off the floor, but the tops of the feet stay down. And when you reach back through the legs so much that the kneecaps lift off the ground, but the feet stay down, you might feel your hamstrings and glutes turn on so that you've got support for the low back. Now, notice what feels better for you in your spine and low back. If you push your elbows and hands away from you as you lift your chest, does that feel more conducive to your spine or less conducive? Or if you grab the floor and you pull the floor towards you, pull your elbows and your hands towards you and let your chest pull forward, does that feel more conducive to your low back? So pressing into the elbows and pressing the floor away from you, or pulling your elbows, pulling your hands towards you. Find which variation you'd like to work with. And then let's stay here, lifting the chest, pulling the chin forward, shrugging the shoulders slightly back. Another breath right here. And then exhale, lower down, hand over hand. Place your forehead on the backs of the hands and take a few breaths as if to breathe into the back body. Breathing into the back body. Slide the hands into prone mountain. Press back to hands and knees. And go all the way back into downward facing dog, stretching back. Now come through, lie down onto the back, have a strap nearby.
or to have a strap with you. We're going to use the strap actually straight away. And of course, if you want to put a blanket or something underneath your head for the supine leg stretch series, you can have something underneath your head for support. So just letting the back of the head come onto the ground. Let's come back to when we began, where we felt our neutral lumbar spine. So back of head heavy, low back ribs on the ground, back of pelvis heavy, and then right hip and left hip equally weighted. Let's take the strap on the balls of the feet or the ball of the foot. Right hand goes up high. And as right hand goes up high, let right shoulder drop back. And just explore here with the legs stretching up, the legs stretching a little straighter, spreading the ball of the foot into the strap, and balancing the weight right to left. Right to left, balancing the weight in the hips. And again, notice if you tend to look at your leg anytime you're lying down, notice if that affects the neck alignment. And just seeing if you can find that place where the back of the head is heavy and the chin maybe has just a tad bit of helium in it so that the neck has a neutral spine. I find that sometimes if we're constantly looking at our legs, the chin will move towards the chest and it'll flatten the cervical curve. Now from here, take your left leg and reach your left leg out onto the ground. And is it possible to take your left leg thigh bone and press it down towards the floor? So the left leg thigh bone presses towards the floor, and your right leg thigh bone, can it press towards your hamstring? Actually, both thigh bones are pressing towards the hamstrings. You could imagine you have a block on the roots of both thighs. Somebody lovingly, of course, lovingly pressing the thigh bones down. Then keeping the left heel and left hip, left shoulder connected to the ground, take your right leg to the right only as far as the left side of the body is staying rooted and grounded. Spreading the feet, thigh bones moving towards hamstrings. One more breath wherever you're choosing to be. Then on your inhale, you'll pull the leg back to center. And as you exhale, release the leg and outstretch your leg and see how that feels. Bring your feet to the ground, 2 feet on the ground, and take your left foot up. Put the strap on the ball of the foot. Wrap the strap around your hand. And as you're here, notice your spine. Notice the weight on the 2 sides of the pelvis. Balance the weight on the 2 sides of the pelvis. Notice how that might change how you stretch into the hamstrings, the hip, and the pelvic floor. Notice if you tend to look at the leg, if you tend to tuck the chin and let your chin have just a little bit of helium in it. So the cervical spine can be balanced. And then if you'd like, you could reach the right leg out. The big toe rolls to the ceiling. And the thigh bones. So the right thigh bone is pressing down. And the left thigh bone is drawing towards the hamstring. Actually, both thigh bones are moving to the backs of the legs. Feeling that grounding, rooting quality of the legs. And just take another breath here. As you feel the right heel, right hip, right shoulder on the ground, see if you can maintain those points of contact as your left leg goes to the side. Left leg goes to the side. Breathing in, breathing out, using your right thigh bone, rooting down to help stabilize as you take another breath here. Then inhale, pull back to center, and exhale, release the leg down. Outstretch both legs and see how that feels in your body. Then draw your knees in and roll over to the side and come up to seated. Many of us will need a blanket to sit on. We're going to come into bound angle. Bound angle pose is where your feet come together, but your thighs open out to the sides. And most people, when they come into this posture, they tend to round the pelvis back because the pelvis tucks under, and you need to sit upon a blanket so that you can come to the tops of your sitting bones. So you want to come to the tops of the sitting bones, the top edges of the sitting bones. And so many of us will need to sit upon something to be able to make that happen. So you're going to come up onto the tops of the thigh bones, the tops of the sitting bones, and then stretch your thigh bones out to the sides. So instead of pushing our thigh bones down here, you're going to try to grow your thigh bones longer. So stretch your right thigh bone out through the right knee and stretch your left thigh bone out through your left knee. And you could press your heels together as your thigh bones reach out to the side. As your thigh bones are reaching out to the sides, feel your sitting bones rooting down, and the spine's going to grow taller and longer. So it's like you're stretching your sitting bones down and your spine upwards. Let's take another breath here. If where we go next is not possible for you, you can sit in a simple seated cross-legged position. However, we started working with this twist last week towards the end of the week. I'll go first. I'm going to take my left leg and roll it over to my right leg, but the knees aren't going to be stacked. The knees will be slightly split open. My left hand will come to my left knee, my left hand will come to my right knee, and I'm going to twist to the right. Right hand comes to the floor. This twist is Vrajasana, which is the twist of a sage, turning the belly and the chest and the gaze to the right as you breathe here. Let's take another breath or two wherever you are, knowing that if this twist isn't accessible, you just sit in a simple cross-legged position and twist to the right. And then slowly, as the chest starts to return to the front, you're going to roll your left thigh back into bound angle pose. And here we are again in bound angle. And then I'll go first again, but you can follow along. I'm going to take my right leg and bring my right leg over to my left. The knees will split slightly apart from each other. My right hand will come to my left knee, and I'm going to twist to the left. I should have said this on the first side, but your two sitting bones won't be on the floor. Only one sitting bone will be on the ground, and the other sitting bone will be in the air. It's intentionally asymmetric. So you're grounding into your left thigh bone as you spin your belly and your chest to the left. Looking over the left shoulder as you breathe. And then exhale as you bring your chest forward. Your thigh is going to open back up. We find our way back into bound angle shape, where the hands can hold the knees and you can pull the knees together to lie down onto the back into Savasana. So maybe it's a great time to cover up with something warm, putting on a long sleeve shirt or warm socks. You could lie down onto the back with a blanket or pillow under the head, maybe a blanket on your body, whatever you need to be comfortable. And so as you lie down, let your thigh bones be long. Perhaps it feels like your thigh bones are flowing right out of your belly. Your thigh bones are lengthening down through your legs. And perhaps as your thigh bones have gotten longer, it's brought release to your lower back and hips and the organs in your belly. And perhaps you might feel that on the inhale, the roof of the mouth and the sinuses spread wide. And as you exhale, the bones of your body get more heavy, more settled. With each exhale, can you let your body release more and more into the support of the ground? With each exhale, can you relax and soften the edges of your body, the edges of your energetic field? Resting into the place of peace and stillness and inner stability. Each exhale softening just a little bit more so. Relaxing just a little bit more with each exhale you take. Feeling your inhaling breath. Feeling your exhaling breath. And spreading quality of the inhale, the roof of the mouth widens. But each exhale is grounding. Each exhale grounds you in your body. You can feel your thigh bones, grounding points of the body against the earth. And just orienting yourself here in space and time, in the room that you're within. And then slowly bend the knees and roll over to one side. And find your way gently towards a seated position. Maybe you can sit a little taller. Maybe the thighs roll and drop down a little easier than when you began. And bring the palms together if you wish to join in the closing chant. Life and death are of supreme importance. Time passes swiftly and opportunity is lost. Let us awaken. Awaken. Do not squander your life. May all beings be happy. May all beings be healthy. May all beings be safe and free from danger. May all beings be free from every form of suffering. Namaste. Thank you so much for practicing. Thank you for being here. I hope this practice is of great support to you and that you can find some grounded, steady calm in these days and weeks to come. Take really good care.